That's what we have right here. We have on the screen right here what marriage meant and the whole institution of marriage. And what we can see right here, I'll start off with the institution of marriage. It comes from an economic contract around 2300 BC. All right. So for those of you that don't know exactly when that is, let's just say round it off around 5,000 years ago. This is when the institution of marriage was formed. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, or I'm going back this far, is because we have to understand where we are currently as a dating culture and where we are currently as marriage goes, right? We're going to get to this cartoon in a minute. But if you see right here, it says how the best historical evidence suggests, and let me make sure you guys can see this okay on the YouTube. Let me make sure. Yeah, and I was just like doing some research on marriages and stuff like that, stuff of that nature. And right here it says, the best historical evidence suggests that marriage as a formal institution is about 4,300 to 4,000, 500. So like I said, rounded off about 5,000 years old, right? With the earliest recorded marriage contracts appearing in ancient Mesopotamia. Before that, anthropologists believe many early human societies lived in loosely organized kin groups. Now, this is the important part right here. They were in loosely organized kin groups where relationships were structured around survival, shared resources, and child rearing rather than formal legal unions. As hunter and gatherers, communities transition into agrarian civilizations, property ownership, inheritance, and lineage became central, and marriage evolved into a structured society or a structural social contract to stabilize wealth, bloodlines, and alliances. Now let me ask you all this. Is marriage not doing somewhat that? Yeah, y'all. Is marriage not somewhat doing that? And just for the research purposes, I might need to repeat that. Okay? Here we go. Check 1, check 2. Make sure you guys are with me right here. Yeah. Check 1, check 2. Hold on. Let's just make sure we get the TikTok up right and going. Check 1, check 2. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay, that we're right on schedule, that we're right doing the thing. And who cares if they can hear us right or not. But yeah, man. Wait, we just want to make sure that you guys can hear. Okay. Who is to say? Who is to say, man, that this is not correct or this is not right? Who is to say? But what I will say is this, though, man, is that a lot of people can think right now that marriage could be an outdated institution. It could be as of now. And that's the whole point that I'm trying to make, though, man, is that we have reached a point now where I think it's time for us to go back and do our research and ask ourselves, really ask ourselves, where do these institutions come from and what are the values that are being sent? But we could say right now, though, that we'll say this, man. A lot of things that are in place right now are currently still in place. There's a lot of things that are in place right now that are still currently in place. And maybe it's going back to that now. It's starting to go back to that. Because, yes, man, we have people now that are getting married strictly for money reasons. And money reasons, and that's what it is, man. And that's completely fine. That's completely fine. But let's just be honest of what it is. Because like I said, man, if I go back into what it says right here, and let me repeat this for the people that were just jumping on the stream right now. Let me repeat this. The best historical evidence suggests that marriage as a formal institution is about 5,000 years old. Okay? And I'm just repeating this for context for those of you that are probably just jumping on the stream and just trying to wonder what we're talking about here. But yes. And to tell you the truth, I think it goes back before this. This is just possibly when they felt the need to announce it, or, you know what I mean? Or maybe it's just like, this is the time frame that, yeah, like I said, like they started to announce it. But if we go into the fact of right here, as it says, organized, what is it, anthropologists, or can we also say archaeologists, believe many earlier human societies lived in loosely organized kin groups where relationships were structured around survival. That's a main part that I want to make sure that we understand, that this goes back to the hunters and gatherers, which we already knew this, but these are things that have been studied from archaeologists and hunter and gatherers and people that have dug up the science. And that a lot of this comes, like, people would get married for families, generational wealth, and like they said, it was organized kin groups where relationships were structured around survival, shared resources, and child rearing rather than formal legal unions. It wasn't until later on that they thought, oh, you know what? This should be about love. But it was never about love. That's not why marriage was created. That's the funny thing, is that a lot of people will go on and say, oh, well, I want to get married, and this is why I want to get married. And it's like, you've been institutionalized. Okay? Like, you've been brainwashed to believe that this is something that is like necessary to promote love. Like, this is like the highest bond of love, is that now you are married. Okay? And it's like, yeah, man, there's some people that will benefit off of this. Okay? There's some people that will benefit off of this. I remember one of my friends had told me, and let me make sure you guys can hear me okay. You guys got to give a few likes, so make sure that we can hear this okay and we can spread the word while we're going on the stream. But I remember that there were a few of my friends who had gotten married. And they said, oh, you know what? I'm married now, and you should get married too. Because it's like good for your taxes. It's a good tax write-off. And I said to myself, wow, That's one of the reasons to get married. Now, don't get me wrong. I love weddings. I love weddings. Don't get me wrong. Weddings are fun. But I will say this, though. As far as getting married, I'm not opposed to it. But I also say in some ways, should we be for it? Should we be for it? Like, the laws are obviously not meant in the man's favor. They're not. Completely not. You tell me. I mean, you guys tell me. What do you think? Do you think that the laws are really generated in a man's favor, especially if the man is the one who's bringing everything to the table? If a man is the one who is bringing everything to the table, the laws are not really in his favor. And you know what's really crazy is that I was watching this movie the other day. And it was like such a weird movie. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was a weird movie about, these guys who were really rich, part of the 1%, and they had an island. And it was just really weird to just see that maybe the elite are the ones who have changed the dating game. Maybe they're the ones that have made it to where, hey, I can provide all of this for you. All of that. I can pay your bills. I have a boat. I have a yacht. I have a jet. I have a Ferrari. All these things that you want. So, therefore, you should come with me. You should come roll with me. And it's just like, okay. You're using all of your money and your fame and all of this to be able to attract attention. Where we already know that there should be more to people than just that, right? We know that there should be more than just trying to attract people through how much money you have. But this is how it operates. Hold on. Wait. I want to be right with you guys. Just a second. Woo. Man, gotta tell you. This is how they operate, man. They operate in a way to where they control the masses and have us all, people are fighting for resources that the elite just disposes of. Like, I always thought that this was an interesting, however you say it, an interesting conception, is the terminology of disposable cash, right? I used to always think that's interesting. Like, wow. Some people out there will say that they have disposable cash. Do you know what that means? That means that you have money that you can throw away. Okay? Like, it's disposable. It's disposable cash. And I said to myself, like, like, even if you're a billionaire, why would you want to have disposable cash? You should still have cash that you can, like, distribute amongst the people and amongst the community. And I understand you probably don't want to give all your money to, like, all the people and all that. Like, what they do for you? They probably didn't believe in you. They probably doubted you. Be like, why would I give my money to them? They didn't believe in me in the first place. I completely get that and understand. But I also feel that there's a lot of things I can do with my money to where I will never call it that, no matter how rich I get. I will never call it disposable cash. Even if I'm a trillionaire like Elon Musk. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm gonna be out here like you know what I mean? We are the world and all that. Hey, I ain't gonna be out here like that either. You know? I'm gonna try to help those that I can help, but I also understand that there's some people out there who don't want to help themselves. So it would be pointless for me to try to help some of those people. You feel what I'm saying? It'll be pointless. But I gotta tell you, man. Let's read what the origin of marriages is again, just for those that are tuning in. Forgive me. I know some people that are watching the video on the playback and stuff might be like, man, you already said that. But it's like, yo, we're doing a stream. So for those that are tuning into the stream, we are going to repeat this. And, you know, you can fast forward through it if you want to, if it's on the playback. Marriage began as a structured, legally binding social contract in ancient Mesopotamia. While the core purpose was to consolidate wealth, ensure legitimate heirs, and secure alliances, it ultimately evolved over millennia into a union based on love, mutual affection, and personal choice. Okay? So that's actually the origins of marriage. So we have to ask ourselves sometimes, are we not somewhat going back to this? Are we not? Look, if you look up the history, as it said on this one profile, it said, anthropologists believe many early human societies lived in loosely organized kin groups. Okay? They were in groups, like hunters and gatherers. They were all in groups, right? Where relationships were structured around survival, shared resources, and child rearing rather than formal legal unions. So that's the point that I'm trying to make right here. It was all about survival. Now, they're probably thinking about Neanderthals, right? Is what I'm thinking. Because when you talk about survival and, you know, structured and shared resources, man, you have to think about this in a way. Like, this makes me think, like, now that I go back, like, how did people get rich? How did people get rich? Well, it must have started where you had the hunters and gatherers that were gathering all of the stuff, you know, to like, and then you had people that figured like stuff out probably better than others. And then they figured out like cows and like meat and how to cook. And then some people figured out fire, and then fire turned into electricity and all this and that, right? But it's like people that just figured out stuff. And I think the people that were like figuring out stuff and just collecting it and collecting all the resources, they were the ones that got rich. They were the ones that got all the women, because the women wanted to be, again, around an organized kin group where relationships were structured around survival, shared resources, and child rearing rather than formal legal unions. Women wanted to be obtained. They wanted to survive. What were they going to do? They didn't. This is what goes back to the fact to why I don't think that women care as much about looks. This is why you see like an ugly old fat guy with a beautiful woman You know what I mean? I'm sure we've all seen that. Whether it be on social media or it be in person. I've seen it in person. You see like an old guy with a young hot chick, and you're like, how did he pull her? Most of the time, it's probably because of money. Most of the time. It's because of security. It's because it goes back to the survival instinct of security and who would be better to bear the children with. But of course, it's always better if your wife is attracted to you. Of course, it's always better. You know what I mean? It's always better if your wife is attracted to you. Because then you don't necessarily have to worry about her cheating as much. Okay? Like, if she's attracted to you, she's probably not going to cheat as much. Whereas, if she is not attracted to you, right? And y'all become married, chances are she's probably going to cheat. Now, this brings me back to the movie that I watched the other day, where I said to myself, in this movie, this girl says that she got abused, did these things with this man. You know, this goes back to the point. And this was such a disturbing movie, I must say. Such a disturbing movie. One of my friends, a girl, by the way, she recommended this movie to me. And I said to myself, what a crazy ass B word. What a crazy ass biatch. You know, everyone said a beep. What a crazy ass beep. How is she going to recommend this movie to me? But anyways, I watched it, and then I was just like remembering the times when me and her would hang out, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can see why you recommended this movie. Crazy ass movie, man. But all I gotta say though, man, is that not all men are like that, the way we are portrayed in this society. And the way we are portrayed through here. And it's almost like it seems like we're portrayed in a way where they want to get rid of masculinity. They want to destroy masculinity with the feminist movement. And they call it male toxicity or something like that, or male toxic energy or whatever they call it. And it's like, no, I don't agree. I don't think it's toxic. What I think is toxic is the feminist agenda. That's what I think is toxic. Yeah, y'all. It's the feminist agenda. And if you don't believe me, look at the movie that's coming out next week, which is called Supergirl. Oh, how? Like, why? Why? And that's who you casted? That's who you casted? Like, okay, first of all, I'll just say this real quick. Do we really have to come with the new superhero? Well, yes, we do. We do, because people find that entertaining. But do we really have to come with another Superman movie? And on top of that, now you've decided that it's not going to be a man, but it's going to be a woman. And I understand there was Supergirl before, but this Supergirl is just, nah. It ain't it, yo. It ain't it. And not only that, but they've also interviewed her, and they asked her, the woman who played Supergirl, you know, the actress who's playing Supergirl, they said, what would Supergirl be in a relationship? And she said, most likely bisexual. I said, there it is. There it is. They're trying to take over.
Mesopotamia, marriage was more than a private romance.
I'll be
It
right
was a
back with
bond
y'all.
between families, a social agreement, and a public celebration. In the lands of Sumer, Akkad, Babylonia, and Assyria, marriage often began with the families. The groom's family would meet the bride's family to discuss.
Make sure you guys listen to this right here, man. This is some ancient history of some truth of what was going on. I know it's like an AI cartoon version, but it's good because it's there to meant to keep your attention. So make sure you guys listen to this.
The conditions of the union. They spoke about gifts, witnesses, household expectations, and the future of the couple. Marriage joined two households together. Because of that, the agreement had to be respected by both families and recognized by the people around them. In many cases, the groom's family presented a formal marriage gift to the bride's family. In Old Assyrian, this gift was known as T.H.E.M. This was not only about the bride and groom. It was about two families agreeing to join their futures. Some agreements were spoken before witnesses. In other cases, especially when property or important conditions were involved, a scribe could record the agreement on a clay tablet. Using a reed stylus, the scribe pressed cuneiform signs into wet clay, while witnesses stood nearby. Before the celebration, the bride was prepared by the women of her household. Her hair, clothing, jewelry, and makeup helped make the wedding moment special. On the wedding day, her appearance was ceremonial and beautiful. Fine fabric, jewelry, styled hair, and eye makeup honored her role in the marriage. This is where the Assyrian touch becomes especially clear. In Assyria, a covered or draped appearance could show public status and household honor. In Assyrian society, a woman's covered or draped appearance could reflect public status, respectability, and connection to a household. The mantle was a woven cloth draped over the head and shoulders in an ancient Assyrian style. The groom also prepared with his family. He wore a fine garment, a fringed mantle, sandals, and carefully arranged hair and beard. Once the families accepted the agreement, the marriage became public. The bride and groom stood before their families, surrounded by elders, witnesses, gifts, and blessings. Then came the celebration. Families gathered in a courtyard or reception space. They shared bread, dates, meat, fish, beer, and music. Musicians played drums and lyres. Guests celebrated, spoke blessings, and welcomed the new bond between the two households. The celebration was joyful, but it was also meaningful. Food, music, blessings, and family all marked the beginning of a new household. At the end of the wedding, the bride left her family home and entered the household of her husband. This was one of the most meaningful moments of the marriage. It showed that a new family connection had been formed. Across ancient Mesopotamia, marriage brought families together through agreement, witnesses, gifts, celebration, and household honor. It was not only a wedding day, but the beginning of a new household. Across ancient Mesopotamia, marriage was more than a private romance. It was a bond between families, a social agreement, and a public celebration. In the lands of Sumer, Akkad, Babylonia, and Assyria, marriage often began with the families. The groom's family would meet the bride's family to discuss the conditions of the union. They spoke about gifts, witnesses, household expectations, and the future of the couple. Marriage joined two households together. Because of that, the agreement had to be respected by both families and recognized by the people around them. In many cases, the groom's family presented a formal marriage gift to the bride's family. In Old Assyrian, this gift was known as T.H.E.M. This was not only about the bride and groom. It was about two families agreeing to join their futures. Some agreements were spoken before witnesses. In other cases, especially when property or important conditions were involved, a scribe could record the agreement on a clay tablet. Using a reed stylus, the scribe pressed cuneiform signs into wet clay, while witnesses stood nearby. Before the celebration, the bride was prepared by the women of her household. Her hair, clothing, jewelry, and makeup helped make the wedding moment special. On the wedding day, her appearance was ceremonial and beautiful. Fine fabric, jewelry, styled hair, and eye makeup honored her role in the marriage. This is where the Assyrian touch becomes especially clear. In Assyria, a covered or draped appearance could show public status and household honor. In Assyrian society, a woman's covered or draped appearance could reflect public status, respectability, and connection to a household. The mantle was a woven cloth draped over the head and shoulders in an ancient Assyrian style. The groom also prepared with his family. He wore a fine garment, a fringed mantle, sandals, and carefully arranged hair and beard. Once the families accepted the agreement, the marriage became public. The bride and groom stood before their families, surrounded by elders, witnesses, gifts, and blessings. Then came the celebration. Families gathered in a courtyard or reception space. They shared bread, dates, meat, fish, beer, and music. Musicians played drums and lyres. Guests celebrated, spoke blessings, and welcomed the new bond between the two households. The celebration was joyful, but it was also meaningful. Food, music, blessings, and family all marked the beginning of a new household. At the end of the wedding, the bride left her family home and entered the household of her husband. This was one of the most meaningful moments of the marriage. It showed that a new family connection had been formed. Across ancient Mesopotamia, marriage brought families together through agreement, witnesses, gifts, celebration, and household honor. It was not only a wedding day, but the beginning of a new household. Across ancient Mesopotamia, marriage was more than a private romance.
All right, I think we got the whole gist of it, right? Let me just repeat that one part real quick. About it not being, marriage was more than just a private romance.
It was a bond between families, a social agreement, and a public celebration. In the lands of Sumer, Akkad, Babylonia, and Assyria, marriage often began with the families. The groom's family would meet the bride's family to discuss the conditions of the union.
Right there. I want to stop it. You see, marriage was really about generating resources and coming together on stuff like that. It wasn't really about what we make it out to be today or what we think it's supposed to be today. And that's the point that I'm making, is that we are possibly going back to a time to where marriage was really all just about survival. It wasn't really about, like, are you in love, or are you in love with this person, or do you really care for this person? Because if that were the case, then we wouldn't have the situations that we had with Shaquille O'Neal, or that we had with some other people that said, oh, well, they didn't think that they were ever really in love. And yeah, I'll get into the interracial relationships in just a second, because yes, we have quite a few of them. There is quite a few of NBA players, especially, which I know I have a post on social media that I can say that is somewhat going viral. It's somewhat going viral. I'd say having only 5 followers and getting more than 100,000 views on a video is somewhat going viral. But yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, marriage is an institution. It's an institution. And we have to come to the point now to where we have to ask ourselves, is it really an institution that you want to be part of anymore? Because there's a possibility that we've been controlled by the powers that be into thinking that this institution really exists. But another point I want to say real quick is that we have to look at the fact that maybe some of these women are just getting married because they feel that, it's all about survival. And it was about survival thousands of years ago, and it's still about survival today. And that's the crazy part. How some things don't really change if you study history, right? That's why it's good to go back and study history. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm happy that y'all are going back and you're studying history with me. Because you see right here that women were marrying into certain families because of survival, resources, and offspring. which, again, kind of sounds like what's going on today. It kind of does if you really think about it and if you break it down. Not much has changed since thousands of years ago. You know what I mean? Like, that's my whole point I'm trying to make here. Is that not much has changed, man. Like, if you study history, you will see that what was going on thousands of years ago is still happening today. There's some things that just don't change. There's certain human emotions, certain feelings, certain chemistry. You know what I mean? Like, there's just certain things that don't change. And we could try to write it in a book or put it in a movie or put it in a song. And some things might make sense. But overall, it's just like, there's some things, man, where that will just never change in biology. You know, that's what I'm trying to say right here. There's certain things just in science and human nature that will never change. And like how we have feelings and emotions and connections and stuff of that nature. You know, how we have all of that, those things I feel will never change. Not even, they didn't change 1,000 years before, and they won't change thousands of years. You know what I mean? Like, there's some things out there in human nature and biology and all that and chemistry that will just always be the same. So, yeah, man, women were getting married back then for survival instincts, and I feel that it's still happening today. So, you know, like I said, like, I really feel that when I was younger, I wish I was a little bit younger. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl so she looked good so I could call her. Nah, we ain't thinking about that. What a sad song that was when you really go back and listen to the lyrics. Ahmad, right? But that was a dope song, though. That was a dope hip-hop song, but still. If you really go back and listen to the lyrics, like, kind of sad. But I'll say this. Like, thankfully, I never felt like that. Like, even when I heard the lyrics back then in the 90s, I was still like, no, I don't feel like that. Thankfully. I am a baller. I am taller. And I did have her number so I could call her. But I'll tell you like this, man. It's crazy out here. It's crazy in America, man. I wish all y'all the greatest success. Please, likewise, share. We'll put this out. We'll keep doing these streams. I'll do more of these, regardless of how many people watch or not. It's not just about that. I'm building up a catalog. That's what I'm doing. I'm building up a catalog. And I hope you guys are enjoying your day. Enjoying your Sunday. Cheers. 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 It's like showing but not showing. Yeah, I got another stream that we're doing. We're doing streams all day today. But thank you guys for tuning in so much. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to check you guys on the next one. Make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe. Thank you.